So, welcome to a brand new style episode, and this one is called D&D Stories, and this is the first one. Now, we have a lot of history with Dungeons & Dragons and some funny stories that we've had playing the game, or, outside of that, with your brother back in the day, and
yes,
we just wanted to tell this story. This story is a classic Dungeons & Dragons story. We can't even believe it happened.
Just to give that history with you and my brother, so for those that don't know, really quickly. John used to hang out with my brother, and him and their friends, they all used to play Dungeons & Dragons. Now, being the little brother, I wasn't allowed in the room.
Yeah.
So I used to sit just outside the room and listen in and try not to get caught. And I used to love listening to the adventures you guys got into when they'd actually play, and it didn't, fall apart into you didn't roll that, and that's not allowed in fighting over rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I always felt bad for you, I gotta say, is because you'd be up at the top of the stairs and you'd be crawling, coming down, and then your brother would be like, "Get back up there! You're not hanging out with us." And you're like, "Oh." You go back up, and I was like, "Oh man, that's so mean." Like, we didn't care if you came down or not. It's just your brother did. He's the only person who cared.
I wasn't even cool enough to play D&D with these guys.
So so years later, obviously we get older, and then we start playing Dungeons and Dragons again. And I had a little tradition. Every New Year's Day, we would play our special Dungeons and Dragons game, and there would usually be alcohol involved, and we'd start about 11 or 12 in the afternoon, and they would go till whatever time, and we finally got one of those games cooking again.
Oh man.
And here's the thing, we actually played with our friend Andrew. He would be on Skype.
Yeah.
And for this game, we have to set it all up. There was yourself.
Yeah.
There was Tamara, your wife. There was Brad.
Yes, Brad was there.
Brad. This is an important part of the story. Our friend Richard was there.
Oh.
I've known Richard since we were 14 years old. He's the first person to show me Wonder Boy in Monsterland. And he had come over, and he is legendary. His character is called Swagger. And that is very important to remember. Swagger. He is unbelievable. No matter what, during the year we play Dungeons & Dragons, no matter what time we play D&D at, whatever, he'll come over, 6-pack of beer, a pack of cigarettes. He'll be going out for butts, coming back in and just drinking steadily until he's quite inebriated. But some of the things this guy does in the game are...
Oh my god.
They're legendary.
I don't even know where to begin with this because he's so...
They're legendary.
Well, this was the first.
Yeah. This is the first
This is where the legend of Swagger begins.
It really is. And so here's the funny thing. I got to tell you the backstory is that the night before was New Year's Eve. So me and Andrew went out to this nightclub and we got drunker than a motherfucker. Okay? And I had this kind of half-cooked story that was going to come up the next day. And I woke up and it's like 10:30 and everybody's coming over at 12 and I'm like, this is me hungover. Oh shit! I got all these people coming over and I have to DM. I'm like, and I go. I didn't know what to do. I had all my story written out, but I didn't know if it was well conceived enough. Had I worked on it enough to keep all these people entertained? So I started working on it and all that. And let me tell you here, this is great. This is a book that I got, I think, in 1989. It's an adventure magazine, the Superior Fantasy and Science Fiction Game magazine from England.
Oh, yeah. So I was wondering what this was for.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is, it's like an old style Dungeons and Dragons style book. It was an independent style magazine, but in the back was a really cool D&D adventure. And it's called Cats, even though it's not really about cats. And I read through this and I was like, and I played this game in 1989. I actually ran this for Andrew as a one-style player game. But I had updated it and I was a lot more mature now and I thought I can run this pretty good. So I started writing. You guys were all in the other room, you popping beers or whatever you were doing. And I'm writing, hungover. But I was focused as a motherfucker and I wrote this thing up. And I came out and said, okay, we're ready. And... we're getting into the story of the Dungeons & Dragons now, this actual story that I came up with, and it's a trick story. And this is the first time that anybody ever beat Dungeons & Dragons, I think. And how I mean is that I created a story, and Dungeons & Dragons can be beaten. It's not a game that can be beaten. It's a game that you work together with your friends and solve things and all that, but it can't be beaten.
You can't single-handedly win at Dungeons & Dragons, technically. Technically.
Not until this day. In my history of playing it. So I had the adventurers. They were in this port town. It didn't really matter. And they had gone on this quest for this this woman in town, high-ranking official. You had succeeded. It was a very quick thing you had to do. You did it. You kind of proved something to her. So she's like, I trust you guys. She wants to send you to the town of Jericho. Now, at this town, some mysterious things have been going on. Some farms have been getting destroyed in the middle of the night by some creature. And she doesn't know anything more about it, but she wants to send you, because she has an interest. There's a financial interest in this entire little small country there, especially in this town. So she wants you to go there, find out the root of the problem, and solve it. So as you start going, she fills you in on a few things. And this is important. This is the trap that I've set up. This entire country that they're about to go into is ruled by women sorceresses, right? So women who are kind of have the upper hand. They are like more important than guys. Guys are below them. There's a whole scenario about that, and that's important because in this country, if you hurt or injure a woman and you're a guy, it's prison for a lifetime. You get executed.
It's death.
Death. It's very, very bad. So you don't injure a woman in this country. Don't do that. That's my trick. So the adventurers, Andrew was playing a wizard and you were a fighter?
I was being a barbarian class that was the like the Dragonborn style.
Oh,
the,
right.
The
We're
giant
playing
dragon
4th edition,
man. Yeah, 4th edition.
And your wife was an illusionist or something?
No, she was like a healing mage.
Healing mage, right. And also, Swagger. He's a fighter. A good old class, good old fashioned fighter. They get to the town and they start doing an investigation.
Yes.
Talking to all the farmers, what's going on? Remember all of that? You guys were going back and forth.
Having to be very careful politically because most of the party was predominantly male and it was a female society, so getting the ladies to stand in the front and do the talking.
I'm being very polite and stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
And also at the same time, I'm putting all this other stuff in. I'm putting there's a story about a minotaur down by the river. Is there something to do with that? And then there's all these cats that are everywhere. Is there something to do with that? I'm throwing them off. I'm trying to fuck them off. And what they do find out that it's a were-tiger that is doing some of the damage. That is actually causing...
It's a large cat. We found out it was a large cat-like animal.
Right.
Because we set up...
That's right.
Do you remember? We set up basically the farm that looked like it was going to be the next target. We found a pattern.
Yeah.
And we set up like an observation net.
Yeah.
We spaced ourselves around, and Andrew the Mage was up in a tree because he doesn't want to fight. And
he's a wizard. He had this gigantic telescope. He was checking it all
He's
out.
up in the tree, and then we were all hidden behind trees and in bushes all the way around.
Yeah.
And then this giant cat showed up.
Yeah, well, whoosh!
And started tearing stuff up.
Yeah.
And so any wise D&D adventurer would circle the wagons and make a plan.
Yeah.
Swagger is a wonderful guy, but he is not a wise adventurer.
He's a recluse. He will just take things off. He's the kind of guy. He'll go up to talk to a king. He'll be like, I go up to the king and I say hello. Then I attack him, and I'm like, what?
What the fuck are you doing?
And he's doing the same.
So what does he do? We're like trying to figure out how to make how to sort of close in carefully and catch this thing, and he pelts face first straight at it.
Yeah.
He just jumps out of cover and runs at it.
He runs after it.
At it.
Okay, and everybody else is like, what do we do? And the way everybody's spaced out, he was the closest one to it, so he was like close to it. Everybody couldn't catch up to help him or to give it any
So we're running
aid.
as fast as we can to try and back him up so he doesn't die.
Yeah.
Then what does he do? He fights it in single combat.
Yeah, hold on a second here.
Now-
what happens is he goes around the side of this barn, and as he gets there, I guess he thought he would just keep on running. And the thing is waiting for him, like, bah. And he's like, and everyone's like, oh, you're dead, Richard. You're fighting a were-tiger on your own.
Swagger's over.
Yeah, and the characters weren't high level. We're talking like level 5 or 6 or whatever the hell it was. Maybe somewhere in that zone at that time. And so I said, Richard, what do you want to do? He's like, I pull out my sword, and I'm like, and he's like, and I throw it down. We're like, what? What do you mean you're throwing it down? He says, I'm going to, this is classic D&D, I'm going to grapple the were-tiger. And we're like, what?
He's out of his mind.
You're not going to take the sword, you're going to grapple it.
He grapples it.
Andrew said, let's get the rules out. Let's figure this out. So we're flipping the rules and doing all the things ready
Yep.
to do a grapple. We're not getting all the technical crap of it all. So he grapples it. He actually grapples it.
Yeah.
It takes a huge bite out of him.
Yeah,
as well as-
that's the thing. He grapples and then it's moved and it bites into his shoulder.
Yeah.
Now, what's the first thing you're gonna think to do when it bites into your shoulder? It's not what Swagger would have done, because what Swagger did was say,
I'm going to pull out my rope and rope it up. What?
I'm gonna pull out a rope and rope it up. Single-handedly, a saber-toothed giant tiger
Yeah.
that he is going to pull out a rope and tie it up.
Yeah.
And of course, as the DM, you're impartial. You have to let him do it.
So I'm like, okay, Richard, and I'm thinking it's just a high kind of thing to do this.
He's dead.
Boom! 20! So, okay, so let me just describe. Now I have to take this from a D&D, a DM point of view. He goes in, grapples a tiger, it bites him. He gets a rope. He ropes the fucking thing up perfectly. Perfectly ropes it up.
Completely subdued.
Subdued. Okay. Now here was the trick I played on everybody: is that the were-tiger, which it was,
It was a were-tiger, not just a tiger.
turns back into a woman.
From the village.
From the village. It was actually a neighboring village. She had some problems of her own. She was escaping to this village and all that. And the trick was that if anybody had actually taken their swords out and killed the were-tiger, you guys would all be fucked. That was my trick. It was a very nasty game in that respect. I set it up that way on purpose. But Richard, by pure foolishness and stupidity, had at that point beaten my rules. He had gone past me so much so that he had actually fucking grabbed this thing down, not hurt it at all.
Not hurt it.
Yeah.
Even though it bit his arm.
Bit his arm, and then he ropes it up, and then it turns back into a woman, passed out, and she's already roped up. He drags her to the mayor's village. Mayor says, "Here you go, figured it out. He beat the game."
He won D&D single-handedly.
That day, yeah. And I was sitting there, and I cracked a beer at the end because I finally had a beer. I'm like, how did he do this?
All of us. Because you have to understand, the build-up to that dice roll. All of us, our characters are still closing in. He's there. There's no backup for him. It's biting into his shoulder. We're all freaking out. And he's like, I'm going to tie it up. And all of us just go,
Are you nuts? Yeah. You're on your own.
I mean, we're all deer in headlights. We're just going,
How is this possible?
you just threw your character away. And it was like slow motion to us sitting on the other side of the DM screen. And you see this hand just shaking the dice. And he lets it go and it tumbles.
What are those legendary things?
20. And there was this audible silence as all the air got sucked out of the room by everyone going,
And then I said,
boom!
turned into a woman. And he's like, can't believe it. He took it to the mayor. Here you go. And unfortunately, that has made Swagger so cocky now. Hey, he actually goes to this bar every day, okay? This is the actual Richard. He goes to this bar every day. And he's drinking in this bar. This is what he does after work. And he actually will tell anybody who will listen this story about this were-tiger. This is no lie.
No lie.
He's telling me this. He's like, yeah, I was telling some people in the bar, who sat down, I grappled a were-tiger. And I'm like, you do know this wasn't real. It's just so funny. Richard's character, he is hilarious.
But you see, this is just chapter 1 in the ongoing legendary saga of Swagger.
And we really wanted to come in today and talk about one of our D&D adventures, and this is a legendary one. It's probably our most legendary one, besides the Boat Ferryman, but we'll save that for another time.
Oh, that's another event. That is part 2 of the ongoing and ever-impressive legend of Swagger.
Swagger and Dungeons & Dragons stories. So anyways, guys, until next time.
Perfect.
God almighty.
Jeez, that was beautiful.
That was fun. So much energy.
Fucking Swagger, that son of a bitch.
Have you been drinking already?
No, not yet.